She's not my daughter. Why would I take her to my vacation? My GF demanded I leave my 9-year-old behind. I smiled and waited. The payback she got at the airport was louder than any argument I could have had. Her meltdown was worth every mile. Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be posting here, but I've been sitting on this story for a while, and honestly, I just need to get it off my chest. It's about how one family trip turned into something I'll never forget. Not because of where we went, but because of what it showed me about the people I let into my life. I, Greg, 42, male, a single dad, and for a while I thought I had this whole blended family thing figured out. My girlfriend, Rebecca, 39, female, had 2 kids from her previous marriage, Kevin, 14, and Faith, 12. I had my daughter, Hope, who's 9 now. She's the quiet type, thoughtful, polite, the kind of kid who asks before taking anything. Rebecca's kids were louder, always needing attention, but I tried to make it all work. Rebecca and her kids moved into my place about 8 months after we started dating. I'd set up Hope's room exactly how she wanted it. I told her, "This is your home too, even though she's with me part-time." That was non-negotiable. At first, things seemed fine. We'd have family dinners, game nights, even the occasional movie night when everyone could agree on a movie, which was rare. But after a few weeks, I started noticing patterns. Rebecca's tone would shift whenever it came to Hope. She'd correct her for the smallest things. Chewing too loud, leaving her shoes near the door, using too much syrup on pancakes while her own kids could blast music at midnight and barely get a look. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe she was just adjusting to sharing space, but then came the day that made everything clear. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was in my office finishing up some work while the kids were in the kitchen. Rebecca was baking biscuits, the fancy kind she likes showing off on Instagram. I heard the oven timer ding, then the clatter of plates and laughter, normal stuff, until I heard Hope's soft voice. "Aunt Rebecca, can I have one more biscuit, please?" There was a pause. Then Rebecca's voice, sharp like a slap. "Hope, no, you've already had one. OMG, you're just greedy like your mother. Get out of here." Silence. You know that kind of silence that just fills the house? That's what it was. I froze for a second. I wasn't even sure I heard her right. Then I heard Hope's small voice again, barely a whisper. "Okay, sorry." I got up so fast my chair slammed into the wall, walked straight into that kitchen. Rebecca was still at the counter, pretending nothing happened. Hope looked down at her plate, red-eyed. Kevin and Faith just stared. "What did you just say to her?" I asked, keeping my voice low but firm. Rebecca blinked like she was confused. "What?" "I just told her she's had enough. You don't want her eating too many sweets." "No," I said, stepping closer. "You said she's greedy like her mother." Her smile disappeared. "It was just a joke. Don't make a big deal out of it." I cut her off. "You don't joke about my kid's mother. You don't talk to my daughter like that ever." She looked genuinely surprised that I called her out. "I didn't mean it like that," she said quickly, trying to sound calm. "You're overreacting." "I'm not overreacting," I said. "I'm ending this. If you think you can insult my daughter and still live under my roof, you're mistaken. Pack your stuff." Her eyes went wide and she reached for my arm. "Wait, no, please, I didn't mean it like that. I just..." "What?" I asked politely for a biscuit. Rebecca started crying then, full panic mode. "I'm sorry, okay. It just slipped out. I love her, I do. I've just been stressed and it came out wrong." I didn't budge. "You don't call a 9-year-old greedy, especially not by comparing her to her mother. That's not a slip. That's how you think." She shook her head, still crying, trying to pull the whole poor me act. "Please don't throw away everything we've built over one mistake. I'll apologize. I'll make it right. I swear I didn't mean it." I stood there watching her crumble, and honestly, part of me just felt tired. Tired of always having to defend Hope from people who should have cared about her. "You want to make it right?" I said finally. "Then apologize to Hope. Not to me, to her." Rebecca nodded quickly. "Of course I will, right now." She knelt beside Hope, who still hadn't said a word. "Hope, sweetheart." Rebecca started, voice shaky. "I'm so sorry." I shouldn't have said that. It wasn't fair or true. You're a wonderful girl, and I was out of line. Can you forgive me? Hope looked up at her, then at me. I just nodded once, silently telling her it was her choice. After a pause, Hope whispered, "It's okay." Rebecca hugged her, and Hope awkwardly patted her back. It looked more like a truce than a moment of forgiveness, but I let it slide. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Rebecca came to me again. She kept saying she'd never do anything like that again, that she'd make more effort. I told her straight, "I'll forgive, but I won't forget. You hurt her once. You're done for good." She nodded like she understood, but I didn't fully buy it. Over the next few weeks, Rebecca did act better, made small efforts, let Hope pick a movie, bought her favorite cereal, even helped her with the school project. It almost looked genuine. One night, I asked Hope privately how things were going. She said Rebecca was being nice now and hadn't said anything mean since that day. I smiled, but deep down I knew this was a test run. I wanted to believe Rebecca had changed, but part of me stayed alert. You don't forget how quick someone shows their true colors when they think no one's watching. And as it turned out, I was right not to let my guard down. For a few months, things stayed calm. Rebecca acted like she'd turned a new page, helped Hope with homework, smiled more, even made breakfast for everyone on weekends. It was decent. Not perfect, but tolerable. I thought maybe the whole biscuit thing had scared some sense into her. Then one night, right after dinner, she dropped her next big idea. She walked into the living room waving her phone. "So I've been thinking, spring break is coming up and it might be nice to take a family trip to Florida," she said, emphasizing family like she was announcing a charity event. My parents said we could use their condo for the week. It's in Orlando, close to the theme parks. It'll bring everyone together. Kevin and Faith immediately started cheering. "Disney?" Faith shouted. Hope looked up from her coloring book, eyes wide. She'd never been to Florida. "Can we really go?" she asked, smiling big. Rebecca nodded dramatically. "That's the plan. I'll take care of the flights. I have a ton of airline points saved up, and we'll stay at my parents' condo for free." She turned to me, her sales pitch mode kicking in. "You can handle the rest, the activities, tickets, food, whatever else we need. Sound fair?" I leaned back on the couch. "So you cover travel and the place to stay. I cover everything else. Works for me." It honestly sounded fair at first. I didn't mind paying for most of the fun stuff if she was handling the flights. Hope was already watching YouTube videos of roller coasters before bedtime. For once, I thought this could actually be something positive for everyone. But of course, that didn't last. A few days later, Rebecca started bringing up activities she was researching. I was working at the table while she scrolled through her tablet, talking more to herself than to me. "There's an orange festival that week," she said, tapping the screen. "They have juice tastings and citrus everything. Sounds fun, right?" I looked up. "You do remember Hope's allergic to oranges, right?" Rebecca blinked, then gave a little laugh. "Oh, that's right. Well, she can just skip that day. I'll take the other kids." I stared at her. "Skip that day? She's 9, Rebecca. What do you expect her to do? Sit in the condo alone?" She waved it off. "We'll figure something out. Don't be so dramatic." That word again, dramatic. Every time she got called out, that was her go-to. 2 days later, she was talking about renting a boat for a tour near the Florida Keys. "It's supposed to be gorgeous. We could snorkel, take pictures. Oh, the kids will love it," she said. "Like a 7-hour drive was no big deal. We could make it a long day trip from Orlando, leave early, come back late." I set my coffee down. "You do remember Hope's afraid of water, right? She almost drowned at summer camp when she was 6. Rebecca sighed like I was ruining her mood. "So what? We can't do anything because of her phobias and allergies? I'm just trying to plan something fun for once." I didn't reply. I just nodded and let her keep talking. But inside, I was cataloging every word, every single plan somehow left Hope out. It wasn't coincidence. It was subtle, but it was there. Over the next week, it became clear Rebecca's version of family trip didn't actually include my daughter. Every time Hope tried to join the conversation, Rebecca shifted it away. "Maybe next time," she'd say. Or, We'll see how it goes. One afternoon I came home from work and found them all in the living room. Rebecca was on her laptop looking at hotel photos, and the kids were helping her pick which theme parks to visit. Hope was sitting off to the side, watching quietly. "Hey, Dad!" Hope called out when I walked in. "We were looking at parks," Aunt Becca said. "We might go to the one with dolphins, can we?" The second she said, "Aunt Becca." Rebecca froze for half a second, then forced a laugh. "Oh, sweetheart, we're still deciding. Don't get your hopes up yet." Hope's smile dimmed a bit, but she nodded. "Okay." I glared at Rebecca. She didn't meet my eyes, just kept typing. That night, I lay in bed thinking about the last few weeks. How every activity she picked magically excluded Hope. How she used that fake, "we'll figure something out" line to dodge responsibility. It wasn't about logistics. It was about priorities. And Hope clearly wasn't one. Still, I wanted to believe maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe Rebecca just wasn't thinking things through. I didn't want to start another fight unless I was absolutely sure. So I played it cool, let her plan, let her feel in charge. I wanted to see how far she'd take it. By the end of that week, she was bragging to her friends on the phone about how she had everything organized for the perfect family vacation. She even said loud enough for me to hear, "I don't know how I do it all sometimes. Planning for 4 people is so exhausting." 4, not 5. I looked at her over the top of my laptop and she gave me that fake, sweet smile. That's when I realized she wasn't planning a family trip. She was planning a trip for her family. I just didn't know yet how deep that went. 2 weeks before the trip, Rebecca was walking around the house like a travel agent on a mission. Every day she'd mention finalizing the itinerary or confirming the flights. She was talking so much about this vacation, you'd think she was hosting a travel show. But something started to bug me. I never saw any confirmation emails, no booking numbers, no flight times. So one night while we were getting ready for bed, I asked casually, "Hey, what time are we flying out again? I need to let my boss know which days I'll be out." She didn't even look up from her phone. "Oh, it's all handled. I'll send it to you later. Everything's in my account." "Cool," I said. "Can you just forward it now before we forget?" She hesitated for a second. "I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow. It's all booked anyway." That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. Rebecca wasn't the type to delay showing off her hard work. Normally, she'd be bragging about flight upgrades and window seats by now. The next evening, she took a shower after dinner and left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. I needed to check a few work emails, so I used it. But when I logged into my account, her airline tab was already open. I wasn't planning to snoop, but then I saw my name. Curiosity hit and I clicked 4 tickets. I jotted down the 6-character confirmation code. Her name, Kevin's, Faith's, and mine. No Hope. For a second I just stared at the screen. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she booked Hope separately, but the trip details clearly said party of 4. My stomach sank. When she came out of the bathroom, hair wrapped in a towel, I was still sitting there. "Hey," I said quietly, "can we talk for a second?" She looked surprised. "Sure, what's up?" I turned the laptop toward her. "Why are there only 4 tickets?" Her face went blank. "What, 4 tickets?" I repeated. "You, me, Kevin, and Faith. Where's Hope's?" She crossed her arms. "I didn't book one for her." I blinked. "You didn't? What? Why?" "She's not coming," she said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "I figured she could stay with her grandma that week. It'll be easier for everyone." "Easier for everyone?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "This was supposed to be a family trip, Rebecca." She rolled her eyes. "Well, technically, it's my parents' condo, and there's only room for 4 people comfortably. You know that." I took a slow breath. "Then I'll pay for a hotel nearby or a ticket, whatever. I don't care about that. She's coming." That's when she dropped it. The one line that erased any doubt left in my mind. "She's not my daughter. Why would I take her on my vacation?" For a moment, the whole room felt quiet. No sound except the faint hum of the fridge. I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she just said. "Your vacation?" I asked. "I thought it was our family vacation." She gave a fake little laugh. You're overreacting again. Look, it's not that deep. I'm just saying it's my responsibility to plan something that works for me and my kids. Hope has her own mom. You can take her somewhere else later. I stood up. You seriously think I'd go anywhere without her? Rebecca sighed like I was being unreasonable. You always make everything about her. You act like the world should revolve around her schedule. That was it. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stared at her. And something in me went quiet. That deep kind of quiet where you stop expecting people to understand you. She kept talking, tossing out excuses, waving her hands like she was explaining something logical. I wasn't really hearing the words anymore. It was like watching someone talk underwater. I just nodded a little, not to agree, but because I was done giving her reactions. Inside, I'd already checked out. There was no fixing this. No long talk, no apology that would make me believe she cared about my kid. She'd said what she meant, and I believed her. When she finally paused, waiting for me to argue, I just reached over, closed her laptop gently, and pushed it toward her. Then I walked upstairs to Hope's room. She was sitting on her bed with her sketchbook, drawing some kind of mermaid castle. I sat next to her. Hey, kiddo, I said softly. You excited for spring break? She nodded. Yeah, I can't wait. Do you think there'll be dolphins? Maybe, I said. Maybe something even better. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat at my desk thinking about every little moment that led here. The biscuit, the orange festival, the boat tour, every we'll see that really meant no. Rebecca never saw Hope as family. She saw her as extra luggage. I made a decision right then. I wasn't going to fight Rebecca anymore. I wasn't going to try to make her care. I'd wasted enough breath explaining what real family meant. Instead, I'd do what I do best, plan quietly, strategically. She thought she was taking a vacation without my daughter. Fine. She'd just have to find out what that really meant. The next morning, Rebecca was back to her usual routine, talking about itineraries, asking if I preferred window or aisle, and reminding the kids to pack sunscreen. She acted like nothing had happened, like we hadn't just had that conversation where she said my daughter didn't belong. I didn't say a word. I just watched and nodded. After she left for work, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and opened my laptop. Her family trip wasn't happening for me anymore, but Hope was still getting one. I logged into the airline account, found my ticket, and canceled it. Since it was booked with her airline points, the refund went straight back to her account anyway. She'd never even notice. Then I booked a new trip. 2 new tickets popped up in my inbox. San Diego same week, perfect timing. Florida could keep Rebecca in her condo. My daughter was going to see the ocean for real. I spent the next few hours planning everything the way she'd love it. Booked a hotel right on Mission Beach with a balcony facing the water. Reserved tickets for the San Diego Zoo, SeaWorld, and even Legoland. I didn't half-plan it. I planned it like it was the most important thing I'd ever do, and honestly it was. When I finished, I called my ex-wife. We hadn't exactly been chatty since the divorce, but we kept things civil. She picked up right away. Hey, I said, I need a small favor. After I explained the whole situation, she went quiet for a few seconds. Then she said, you did the right thing. She even helped me map out places Hope would love. La Jolla tide pools, a butterfly garden. She sounded almost proud of me. Just send me a picture when she sees the butterflies, she said. She's going to remember that forever. That hit me harder than I expected. For the next 2 weeks, I played along like everything was normal. Rebecca bragged constantly about how organized she was. She kept saying we when she really meant me, Kevin, and Faith. I didn't bother correcting her. I kept my San Diego plans quiet. Printed all my confirmations at work, not home. Packed light, simple. Just one big suitcase for me and one for Hope. I stashed them both in my car trunk under an old blanket. Every time Rebecca brought up the Florida trip, I just nodded. Sounds fun, I'd say. She probably thought I'd moved past the argument. She had no idea I was already 2 steps ahead. The day before the trip, Rebecca was buzzing with energy. She spent the night triple-checking bags, talking to her mom on the phone and reminding the kids to bring chargers. Hope helped where she could, but you could tell she felt out of place. Kevin and Faith kept talking about what they'd do when they got there. Rebecca didn't correct them once. When everyone went to bed, I sat down on the edge of Hope's bed. She was still awake, quietly reading. "Hey, Peanut," I said, "how would you feel about going somewhere else for spring break?" She looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" "Well," I said, lowering my voice, "while Rebecca and her kids go to Florida, I thought maybe you and I could take a different trip. Just us." Her eyes lit up instantly. "Really, where?" "California, San Diego. We'll see the zoo. Maybe even Legoland if you want." She sat straight up, her book sliding off the bed. "Wait, for real? Just you and me? Just us?" I said, smiling. "Yeah." She threw her arms around me, whispering, "Thank you, Dad." It was quiet, but it hit harder than any argument ever could. I told her to keep it secret until morning. We'd leave after breakfast. Let her think we were going to the airport with them. She nodded, eyes glowing with excitement. "I can't wait." That night, I double-checked everything. Boarding passes, hotel bookings, tickets, all perfect. I slipped the suitcases into the back seat of my car so Rebecca wouldn't see them. Lying in bed, I could hear Rebecca on the phone with her mom, talking about how it's so nice to finally have a trip for my family. Her voice carried down the hallway. I just stared at the ceiling and smiled to myself. She'd get her wish. She'd have her family trip, just not the one she expected. Before I turned off the light, I glanced at Hope's door. I could see the little glow of her night lamp under the crack. She was probably still awake, too excited to sleep. And honestly, so was I. In a few hours, she'd find out what it really felt like to be the center of the plan, not the afterthought. Let Rebecca have her Florida condo and her perfect photos. Hope and I had a real vacation waiting for us. The next morning, everything started like any other travel day. Rebecca was already pacing the house at 6 o'clock a.m., double-checking passports, shouting for Kevin and Faith to grab their bags, and giving me a list of things I'd better not forget. I just smiled, carrying my and Hope's hidden suitcases to the car while she wasn't looking. We loaded up and left for the airport. Rebecca sat in the front seat talking non-stop about Florida weather, her parents' condo, and how she couldn't wait to finally relax. Kevin and Faith argued in the back about who would sit by the window. Hope sat quietly next to them, holding her stuffed turtle, the one she's had since she was 5. Every few minutes, she'd glance at me, trying not to smile. She knew the secret. When we pulled into the parking lot, Rebecca directed me to her airline's terminal. "Drop us at departures," she said. "You park the car." "Sure," I said, keeping my tone light. "We'll meet you inside." Once she and the kids went ahead, Hope and I parked, grabbed our bags from the trunk, and walked toward the other side of the terminal. Different airline, different destination. She kept giggling under her breath. "Dad, what if she sees us?" "She won't," I said. "She's too busy making sure everyone knows she's going to Florida." We checked in easily. 2 boarding passes to San Diego printed out smooth as silk. The agent smiled at Hope and handed her a little pair of plastic wings. "First time flying?" Hope nodded proudly. After security, we had time to kill, so we stopped at a cafe for breakfast. Pancakes and orange juice. Well, apple juice for her. She kept kicking her feet under the table, too excited to sit still. I checked the time. Rebecca's flight boarded at 9:10, ours at 9:40. Same terminal, just a few gates apart. Perfect. I pulled out my phone and sent her a text. "Which gate are you at?" A minute later, she replied, "C12, hurry, they're about to start boarding." Perfect. We walked over, blending into the crowd. When she spotted us, she waved, clearly relieved, probably thinking we'd just been running late. But then she frowned. "Where are your bags?" I smiled, already checked. "Oh, good," she said, glancing at the line forming. "Come on, they're starting boarding group 1. We can probably go in soon." I didn't move. "We're not on this flight," she blinked. "What do you mean?" "We're not going to Florida," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. Hope and I have our own trip. Her eyes widened, color draining from her face. What are you talking about? Of course you are. I booked your ticket. I shook my head. You booked your ticket? I canceled mine. The people around us were starting to notice the tension. Rebecca's voice rose fast. Are you kidding me right now? You canceled your ticket? What about the money, the condo, the kids' plans? I shrugged. You made your plans, I made mine. Her jaw tightened, anger flooding her face. You're supposed to pay for everything there. How do you expect me to cover it all now? I looked her straight in the eye. That's not my problem. You lost me the day you decided to exclude my daughter. That did it. She exploded. You're embarrassing me in front of everyone. You're making a scene. This is childish. I couldn't help the small smirk. You embarrassed yourself when you planned a family trip without half the family. Her voice got louder. You think you're some kind of hero? You ruined our vacation. People were openly watching now. A gate agent stepped closer, clearly deciding whether to intervene. Kevin and Faith stood awkwardly off to the side, not saying a word. Hope squeezed my hand tighter, her small fingers pressing against mine. I leaned in close enough for only Rebecca to hear. I told you before, I don't argue about my daughter. You made your choice. Enjoy, Florida. She opened her mouth to shout again, but the gate speakers cut in. Now boarding rows 1 through 6 for flight 2011 to Orlando. Kevin tugged on her sleeve. Mom, we need to go. Rebecca glared at me one last time, eyes full of rage, then grabbed the kid's hands and stormed toward the gate. This isn't over, she hissed as she passed. I watched her go without a word. The line of passengers swallowed them up, and just like that, she was gone. Hope looked up at me. Dad? Yeah, kiddo. Can we go see the butterflies now? I smiled. Yeah, let's go. We walked across the terminal toward our gate. No shouting, no drama, just the sound of her sneakers squeaking on the floor. When we got there, I handed her the boarding pass. You hold on to this one. She looked down at it like it was a golden ticket. See, she read out loud, grinning. A few minutes later, as we lined up to board our own flight, she tugged my hand again. Dad? Yeah. She leaned close and whispered, Thanks, Dad. And just like that, all the noise from earlier didn't matter. None of it. By the time we pushed back a little after 10, Florida was just a dot on someone else's map. San Diego felt like a reset button. The second we stepped off the plane, the air smelled like salt and sunscreen instead of tension. Hope's face was pressed against the airplane window, and when she saw the ocean for the first time, she gasped. It's so big, she whispered. That alone made everything worth it. We spent the next few days just living. No schedules, no rules, beach walks, sandcastles, goofy photos. We ate pizza on the balcony and watched sunsets that looked like fire melting into the water. For once, Hope didn't seem like she was trying to stay out of anyone's way. She laughed loud. She took up space. She was free. And that's when Rebecca started her campaign. The first message hit my phone the morning after we landed. How could you do this to me? I ignored it. An hour later, you embarrassed me in front of the entire airport. My parents are furious. By day 2, it shifted to guilt. Kevin misses you. He cried last night. Then came the blame. You ruined this family, all over one spoiled brat who always plays victim. That one almost made me laugh. By the end of the week, she switched to pleading. Please just come to Florida. We can fix this. The kids keep asking where you are. I responded once. Sent a photo of Hope smiling at the beach with the caption, We're doing just fine. She didn't reply after that. When our plane touched down back home, Hope was glowing. I carried our luggage through the airport while she told a complete stranger in line that she saw the biggest turtle ever. Rebecca wasn't home when we got back, which was a blessing. The house felt quiet, peaceful. Hope ran to her room, unpacked, and taped one of her beach photos to the wall. We'd only done 4 nights in San Diego, just enough for a perfect break while Rebecca and her kids were gone the full week. 3 days later, she finally came back with her kids. I heard the garage door, the heavy footsteps, the fake cheerful voice. We're home, she called out like nothing had happened. I stayed seated at the kitchen table. She walked in with sunglasses on her head, fake tan, and a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "So how was your little trip?" she asked, setting her purse down. "Perfect," I said. She laughed lightly, but I could tell she was trying to gauge how much trouble she was in. "Good. I'm glad you and Hope had fun. Maybe next time we'll all go together when things cool off." I didn't respond right away. I waited until the kids went upstairs before I said it. "We're not doing this again." She froze. "Doing what?" "This," I said, pretending everything's fine, acting like you didn't say what you said, acting like my daughter doesn't exist when it's inconvenient for you. Her smile faded. "You're still stuck on that. God, you're so dramatic. I already apologized." "No," I said calmly. "You apologize because you got caught. You don't see anything wrong with what you did?" She crossed her arms. "So what now? You're breaking up with me over one trip?" I looked her straight in the eye. "No, I'm breaking up with you because you made it clear you'll never see my daughter as family, and I'm not living like that." She laughed bitterly. "Wow, you really think you're some perfect dad, don't you? You're making a huge mistake. No one else is going to put up with your rules." "I'll take that risk," I said. For a moment, she just stared at me, realizing I wasn't bluffing this time. Then she muttered something under her breath and stormed upstairs. I heard drawers slam, suitcases unzip. Within an hour, she was gone. When the front door finally closed, the silence that followed felt different. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was light. That night, Hope came into the living room wearing her pajamas and holding her sketchbook. "Is Rebecca gone?" "Yeah," I said. She hesitated. "For good?" "For good," I said. She nodded slowly, then smiled. Okay, the next morning. The house actually felt like home again. No tension, no fake politeness, no walking on eggshells. Hope hummed while eating breakfast. She told me a joke she made up herself. It didn't even make sense, but she laughed so hard she snorted. I hadn't heard that sound in months. Later that week, she helped me rehang some of her drawings on the fridge. She even started calling her room our house again. Watching her like that, happy and relaxed, I realized I should have ended it the day Rebecca called her greedy over a biscuit. I'd tried to make something work that was never meant to, but better late than never. This time, the only person I'd ever have to defend my daughter from was anyone who forgot she came first. And I wouldn't be making that mistake again. A year later, life looked completely different. The house felt alive again, not like a space I shared with tension. Hope was thriving. Better grades, more confidence, more friends. Her teachers even said she'd become more outspoken in class. One evening, about a month after school started again, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I picked up, the voice was sharp and familiar. Rebecca's mother. "Do you have any idea what you've done to my daughter?" She snapped before I could even say hello. "She's heartbroken. You embarrassed her publicly. She says she's never been so humiliated in her life." I leaned back on the couch, calm as ever. "She's an adult. She made her choices." "You overreacted," the woman continued. "You threw away a perfectly good relationship over one misunderstanding. Rebecca has been depressed for months. Then maybe she should learn from it," I said evenly. "Because I'm not sorry." She scoffed. "You think you're some kind of hero? You ruined her family." "No," I said, "she ruined it herself. I just stopped pretending not to notice." She hung up on me after that. I sat there staring at my phone for a second, half expecting Rebecca to text next, but she didn't. I guess even she knew that door was closed. A week later, I got a message from a guy named Brian. At first, I thought it was spam until I saw the last name, her ex-husband. He wrote, "Hey, this is Brian. Sorry for the random message, but I think I owe you a beer, or at least a heads up." I agreed to meet him. We sat at a small diner and talked for almost 2 hours. Turns out Rebecca did the exact same thing during their marriage. He had an older son from before they met, and she always found ways to push that kid out. Left him home during trips, made excuses for not inviting him to events. That marriage ended for the same reason mine almost did. Brian shook his head halfway through his story. She's always been like that, man. Everything's fine until she has to share attention. Then suddenly, it's someone else's fault. I couldn't even be angry anymore. I just felt relieved, like I dodged a second round of chaos. Time kept moving, and so did life. The best part? Co-parenting with my ex-wife got smoother than it had ever been. We were finally on the same page about hope. No passive-aggressive texts, no scheduling wars, just communication that worked. One day, she called and said, "I heard from Hope about what happened. She's been so bubbly and happy since that trip. I just wanted to say, you did the right thing. Thank you for standing up for her." We started talking more after that. Nothing forced, just small things, school updates, what Hope was into, maybe a joke here and there. Then she started coming by for dinner sometimes for family nights. Hope loved it. She'd sit between us at the table, all smiles, like it was the most normal thing in the world. It didn't take long for the conversations to drift past parenting. We'd talk after Hope went to bed about work, life, everything we messed up back then. She told me she noticed a change in me, that I seemed calmer, more sure of myself. I told her she looked happier too. She laughed and said, "Maybe we'd both grown up. There's no label on what we are now. We're not rushing anything." But there's something there again. Familiar, steady, and surprisingly easy. I don't know where it'll go, but it feels right. Hope picked up on it too. The other night, she asked if her mom could come with us on our next trip. "Like a real family one," she said. I told her, "We'll see. But truthfully, I'm already looking at flights for next summer." A few days ago, I was cleaning out my email and found one last message from Rebecca sent months ago unread. The subject line just said, "You'll regret this." I hovered over it for a second, then deleted it without opening. That chapter was done. That night, Hope came into the living room with her sketchbook again. "Dad, remember the beach?" she said, flipping to a page she'd drawn, us holding hands with the ocean behind us. She'd written San Diego in the corner in big messy letters. "Yeah," I said, smiling. "I remember." She leaned against me on the couch. "That was my favorite trip ever." "Mine too, kiddo." And it really was, because that trip didn't just break a relationship. It fixed something more important. It gave my daughter peace. It gave her proof that I'd always choose her. Looking back, I don't regret a thing. Not the fight, not the quiet planning, not walking away from Rebecca at that gate. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you a relationship. But if it gives your kid a sense of safety and belonging, it's not a loss, it's a trade-up. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the best trade I'll ever make.